What is up, you guys? Shan's here, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode of the Completely Living podcast, where we talk Bible, faith, and go wherever the Holy Spirit leads us. Today, we're going to be going through Genesis chapter 6. I've already gone through Genesis chapters 1 through 5 on my channel, so if you haven't seen those, make sure you go and check those out. We are going to be reading in the NLT version, or the New Living Translation. You can feel free to follow along in any other translation or follow along here. I will put the words on the screen if you're able to, if you're watching on video. If you're listening, just be sure to listen. All right, so Genesis chapter 6, the first heading that I have is a world gone wrong. So verse 1, well, first, hold on. We ended verse 5. We ended chapter 5 with talking about Seth's line, and we got to Noah and Noah having sons. So chapter 6, verse 1, then the people began to multiply on earth, and daughters were born to them. Verse 2, the sons of God saw the beautiful women and took any they wanted as their wives. All right, we need to stop here, because we have the phrase sons of God. And in the Hebrew, that is Bina Ha Elohim. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. And the three other times that word is translated in the Bible, it's referred to and translated as angels. So the idea is, for some scholars, that the sons of God are angels, or more accurately, fallen angels. Now, some people say that the sons of God is referring to, Seth's line versus Cain's line, and which ones were the sons of God and things like that. I don't personally prescribe to that definition, because, well, let's keep reading on for what the sons of God do. So verse 3, then the Lord said, my spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their lifespan will be no more than 120 years. I'm going to read one more verse. Verse 4. In those days, and for some time after, giant Nephilites lived on the earth. For whenever the sons of God had intercourse with women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. A lot to unpack here. So, the sons of God are taking women, having children with them, and they are becoming these giant light Nephilites, or the Nephilim. These people are thought of to be, and it says here, giants. In some translations, they're just referred to as giants. So the sons of God, or these fallen angels, are having relations with women, and it says they're taking them as wives, but who knows if that's just a nice way of saying forcing these women. So these fallen angels are having sexual relations with women and giving birth to like a hybrid race of Nephilim, who are these giant people and the children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. So it makes me think of like these stories of people like Achilles or Hercules, like these mythological people. If people like that did exist, but they were Nephilim, they were giants, they were these giant warriors, I just wonder that. And I also think it's important to note that Goliath is a Nephilim. That's the thought. He is giant. He is a giant person. So when David and Goliath fight, he is fighting this hybrid species of man. So I remember seeing some scholar talk about like, if Goliath was really as tall as they say, he would have all of these different problems with his bones and all of these things. That's looking at it from a human perspective. This is a spiritual perspective. This is a hybrid creature. This is a fallen angel mated with a human to make a different species of person. These people are known as the ancient warriors. They're big, they're giants, they're different. What I think is also important is in the beginning of verse 4, it says, in those days and for some time after, the giants Nephilites lived on the earth. So even after the flood, post-flood, the giants are still there. The Nephilim are still there. So they're not completely wiped out by the flood, which I find interesting. And I wonder kind of what that means, how they were able to survive. Maybe we have one of Noah's sons or one of the women that he married. Something is going on there. I don't know. Just very interesting. So there are giants on the earth, and we're talking about fallen angels or demons, and demons mating with women. Another key thing is in verse 3, in the future, their normal lifespans will be no more than 120 years. There are some versions that say that a little bit differently, but some scholars think that the translation is not necessarily that the lifespan is 120 years, but rather that God is saying they have 120 years until I flood the earth. I don't know which one it is. I do know that after the flood, there are still, and you will see in Genesis, there are still people who are living well beyond 120 years. So maybe it was just a warning. God's just saying it is a warning that you have 120 years to get your act together. Noah's going to be building the ark with his sons for this amount of time. Or maybe God meant, people are not going to live as long as they used to. We don't know. Verse 5, the Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. Wow. Everything humans thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. How terrible for us. Wow. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on the earth. It broke his heart. So God is a feeling God. He's a God of emotions and heart, and he's sad that this is what we've become, which is just unfortunate. Verse 7, and the Lord said, I will wipe this human race I have created from the face of the earth. Yes, I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and even the birds of the sky. I am sorry I ever made them. But Noah found favor with the Lord. I love that at least there's someone, Noah, who found favor with the Lord. And it's interesting to me that it just mentions Noah. It doesn't say Noah and his wife or Noah and his sons. It's Noah found favor with the Lord. The next heading is the story of Noah, verse 9. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. So the last time we saw somebody who lived in close fellowship with God, that was Enoch, and he was just taken up by God after 365 years. He didn't die, he was just taken by God. So now we have another person. We have Noah, who walked in close fellowship with God. He is the only blameless person. And Noah, verse 10, was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It makes me wonder if, again, so is Noah's faithfulness and his fellowship with God allowing the redemption of his sons and his wife and his sons' wives? Are they able to be saved because Noah was righteous? And how that plays into other parts in the Bible where it says a believing spouse is able to redeem a non-believing spouse, where God is showing mercy on this entire family for Noah's sake. Verse 11, now God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on earth was corrupt. Everyone. The only blameless person is Noah. So obviously sin still continues after the flood, so we know that some of the people saved on the ark obviously still had sinful nature. Humans have a sinful nature. Unfortunately, that's what has happened after the fall. Verse 13, so God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures, for they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them out. I will wipe them all out along with the earth. Verse 14, build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out. Then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Stop right here where we have, in verse 14, waterproof it with tar. So that word tar is actually the word that is translated into tar here is mentioned in the Bible 70 other times. And when it's mentioned in the Bible, those other times, it's referring to atonement. So here it's referring to tar, but that word actually means atonement. And that is so interesting because God is directing Noah to cover the boat in an atonement substance. So the boat is a rescue for humans but an atonement for the sin, like we have to flood the earth because the earth is so corrupt. I just find it interesting that word, every other time in the Bible, is referred to as atonement. Here, it's Noah is wrapping the boat in the atonement, in the tar. Verse 16, leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. Verse 17, look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on the earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. The covenant. I will confirm my covenant with you. Covenant is a legal agreement. So God making a legal agreement is the most perfect thing. A God covenant is a covenant that is not broken on God's part. Can humans break the covenant? We saw that with Adam and Eve, because God put Adam and Eve in the garden to be in close fellowship with him and gave them one instruction to not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They did it. They broke the covenant, and now all of these bad things happen. Here, God is making a covenant with Noah, and this covenant is a strong legal binding from God's perspective. Verse 19, bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. I find it interesting. Noah didn't go out and rally all these animals and try to catch them. He's not trying to catch pigs and chickens and lasso them to bring them onto the ark. God is bringing them to Noah. It's one of those things where it's like, it's very easy for me to understand that is what happened, because it's one of those things where like, yeah, I don't know how, because it's God, but I also don't know how animals hibernate and sleep for months at a time without eating or drinking and are still alive. I don't know how certain animals know to migrate south for the winter. I don't understand the logistics of all of it. I know that God in his divine power is able to just do stuff. So I fully believe that God had these animals come to Noah. Verse 21, and be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for all the animals. So we got to get food, we got to get the animals. Verse 22, so Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded. And that's the end of chapter 6. But something that I want to point out is that Noah begins building this humongous boat in a landlocked area. Imagine Noah and his sons are building this boat maybe for 120 years, and people are coming by like, what are they doing? There is no water. They're building the boat here. I don't know how they're going to get it to water. What is he doing? This is a crazy man. He's a crazy man. He's a righteous man who's preaching about God, presumably, because he is a righteous man. Noah is known as this righteous man in close fellowship with God. He's probably always talking about the Lord. And him and his sons are out building this humongous boat in the middle of the land in a landlocked area. And people are just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. I cannot explain it. But he is faithful to God. He did everything exactly as God had commanded him. And also his sons were listening to his father, which is also important, that the sons are honoring his father. I wonder if the sons thought like, Dad is lost it at this point. Like, Dad is building a boat and he thinks the end of the world is coming. Okay, well, we're just going to do what he says. We're going to just make Dad, okay, Dad, we'll build the boat. Or were they on board? Where they're like, yeah. I mean, this chapter goes on and on about how Noah's the only righteous person. So I'm thinking his sons did not necessarily know that this was happening or were not in close fellowship with God. I'm just reading between the lines. So they were just doing this without really having heard from God themselves. All very interesting. But Noah did exactly as God said. And when we get into the next chapter, we're going to talk about the flood and what happens. So be sure to come back to the channel for that. If you enjoy going through the Bible, talking about Bible, faith, anything that the Holy Spirit wants us to talk about, please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, hit the like button, anything to just help support the channel. And I will see you next time.